All right, back on the TA again for the next little installment of what we have to do to get this thing put back together. All right, we've got the headers in. This side bolted up, the driver's side bolted up nice. The only thing that's touching a little bit, there's some plug wires that are touching just a little bit. We may have to put some insulation around these wires because they're definitely gonna melt sitting here right on the tubes like that. That's the only one that's touching on this side. On the driver, or on the passenger side, excuse me, we're having some more issues. The front and the back bolt, the front bolt doesn't want to go in into the head. The back bolt didn't want to go in easily. And what we've got going on is the bottom of the car, the header's touching the floor. I'm gonna raise it up and show you. All right, you see on the driver's side, we've got a ton of room around the header. The flange, no problem. We're gonna get a pipe on there nice and clean. Should be able to get an oxygen sensor on there, easy breezy. You can see on the driver's, or excuse me, on the passenger side, I keep saying driver's side. On the passenger side, not so much. You could put a pipe on that. It would be very tight, but you could get it in there. I don't know if we're going to do slips or if we're going to weld onto this. I don't know how the exhaust shop's going to do that. I'm not handling that portion of this. But as you can see there, we're never going to get a oxygen sensor screwed into there. So, I mean, that's right on the floorboard. You can see there's quite a bit of a gap. You can see like there's some putty, some insulation, seam sealer or something right here, and there's a big gap. You can see on this side we don't have that. I don't know if one point the tunnel was replaced or a piece of the floor was replaced, the firewall, or if that's like that from the factory. I don't know. It looks factory to me, but they may have put too much sealer in there and it just mushed that out. So I don't know if I'm gonna take this header back out and try to massage this with a board and a hammer maybe, where we can get oxygen. I mean, if you put an oxygen sensor in there, it's gonna stick up pretty far. There's no way there's an oxygen sensor going in that hole right now. It's just too tight. There's no possible way you're gonna get a sensor in that. This side, no problem. And I don't know if we're going to run them on both sides or not. I got to lay this wiring out and see how this system does. If it's just running one, no problem. But if we're running two, big problems. If we're not, I can dent this in a little bit and put a plug in that, and then we can slide a piece over that, no problem. But again, you know, since we're right up on the floor like that, it's touching. I'm having trouble getting my bolts in up top. Either that or this side, this header on this side was just welded up goofy. It came out of the, you know, went in the jig wrong or whatever the process is for building the headers on this thing. One side's great, other side's totally different. You can see that it hangs down just a little bit more on the driver's side than the passenger side. Not too terribly, it's not dramatic, but it's just a little bit. Don't think, I mean, it's almost unnoticeable. You can see it on this side just a little bit. So I don't know if that's when they welded on this collector. It angled up on them, or what. So everything else looks good with it. It's the drain tube from the vintage air. The motor mounts went in just fine. Okay, so here's our wiring harness, supplied from our kit with a crate motor. There's the module. I believe, or is that the fuse box? Might just be a fuse box. Yeah, that's a fuse box module, plugs into those connectors. So I looked at it. We do have 2 oxygen sensors. O2 sensor even, it says there, and vehicle speed, crank, and an oxygen sensor odd. So I don't know how long these are in reference to laying them out on the motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start running I'm going to run the wiring harness along the engine. I'll run the engine harness and find out how much length we have. So this header, the biggest thing is this one sticks out a lot longer than this one. This one we don't have any issues with as of now. Anything can come up. This one, I just don't think I'm gonna get a sensor in there. It's in the wrong spot. It's just in the wrong spot. It needs to be back here. Or if we could put it in a little further down, put a cap in it there, and put a sensor in the pipe that's going to go on this side. They could do a bung and put a sensor in this way, where if we have enough wire to get this far past, I'll just cap that and dimple this in a little bit so this doesn't sit there and beat on the floorboard as the engine revs. I think that's just the way we're gonna have to do it. We put body bushings in this thing last time we fooled with this car, like 15 years ago or whenever it was, 10 years ago. So it's not, I don't think we're having a problem with any bushings sagging or anything like that. It's just the way they did the headers. I mean, it is what it is. It's a hurdle. I've got to deal with it. Everything on this car, every little piece, I might make a little progress, 1 step forward, 2 steps back type deal, and then make a leap forward, and then figure out what else is going to be a challenge and holding me back. And that's why I don't do these for a living anymore. It's too hard to get parts. None of this aftermarket stuff wants to fit properly. It's a massage this, battle with that situation. It just the parts that we're dealing with. Yeah, these were a cheaper set of headers, a lot cheaper than I was expecting. They were only like $300 or $400 for the set. I want to say they were only like $375 for a set of stainless steel headers, which I thought was phenomenal. It's like the headers I'm looking at for my El Camino for a small block that are stainless are like $1,500. And I'd looked at some headers for LS3 that were like $1,500. When I found these, I was like, man, let's just cross our fingers and hope that price will allow us to use them, not just look at them. So they're not, so far, one side's good, one side's not. We'll just see what we can do here. On this, just real quick, I think it's cool, and I just we just went and got the magazine out. Caleb had a field trip today, so he didn't want to go on it. He's been there before, to a nature center. We've taken him to 100 times. So he wanted to come out and hang out with me today. So he went and got the mail, and Sick the Mag just came out, and my buddy Jason Schaefer made the cover. I ran with these guys all week in Florida for Sick Week, and Scott Guthrie made the centerfold, which I think is so cool. I mean, the whole centerfold cover and the centerfold. We all camped together for a week down there. It was awesome. Even my pile made it in. Justin made it in with his Model A. There, look at that. Old 65 made it. Reggie made it. Reggie's in here 2 or 3 times, I believe, in the Oregon Grinder. He is camping with us. Everybody that was with us made it in. We, hey, super excited. I'd never been in a magazine before. It's pretty cool. I didn't do anything other than cruise my old El Camino around Florida. We did put about 2,000 miles on it in 1 week total. I did not put it on a trailer to go down there. I drove it all the way to Bradenton, drove it all around Florida, 800 some odd miles around Florida, and then 500 miles back. So it was 1,000 miles just there and back, an 800-mile loop. So that's 1,800 miles, and roughly, hell, I think that month, with all the drag strips I went to after we came back home, I think we probably put about 4,000 miles on the car in a month. And really didn't have any issues with it, other than had to put a set of plugs in it, and had some goofy problems with the blinkers, but other than that, everything works pretty good. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to start laying out this wiring harness and just kind of figure out. I'm sure I'm going to have to play with this thing for a while. I'll set the camera up on the roof and let you guys watch along. We're going to start with a generator plug. Cap. Line comes with a cap, just keeps stuff out of the plug, I reckon. All these are labeled pretty nice. GEN for generator. Start with that. Just kind of start figuring out everything that's should be laid out fairly close to one another. You got a cam sensor, mass airflow. It's going to go like somewhere in here. It's going to go the air going into the throttle body, which we don't need that yet. There you go. Watch you don't stuck on it. Alright, so now we're going to the cam sensor, which I believe is right here. It's down front. It's right down below, it's right by the front crank pulley. I'm sure I'm going to have this twisted up. I'm going to have to rearrange stuff, which is okay. I just want to get stuff laid out right now. Got an engine coolant temp sensor. Should go right here on the head. Okay, so that's mass airflow. Alright. Well, that one's not labeled. I believe these are okay. They're injectors. So this should lay out, even though these injectors aren't labeled, it should lay out in order. That's what we'll do. Most engine harness, factory style engine harnesses, they lay out pretty well. Usually once you start running them, it's not a problem. For the most part, figuring out where stuff goes, even if it's not labeled. You just gotta fight with the Medusa snake for a while until you get stuff kind of situated. And I'm sure we'll, like I said, we'll rearrange some of this stuff and make it a little neater. I don't know, I have no idea where I'm gonna put the computer yet, or this fuse panel. Not sure. That's an oxygen sensor. Dabble main connector, plugs. That stuff needs to go through the firewall that was there. So O2, probably be my driver's side O2. Vehicle speed sensor. This is our electronic throttle body. So we know this one's going to be towards the front. Push the lock in. Then we can start laying out these injectors. So this is our map. Map again. That's not good. Map sensor plug up. Give me a flashlight from on top of the toolbox, please. Well, that's not good. The map sensor's got the wrong connector on it. Yep, totally wrong connector on the map. All right, so there's another problem we got to deal with. Okay. This should be the crank sensor. No, that's a knock sensor. On this side, crank sensor, oxygen sensor. Okay, so this stuff down. pressure sending unit. Necessary. Locking tab. Alright, oil pressure's hooked up. This is a knock sensor for this side. Go down. So I believe they're inside the lock I'm going to use. Speed sensor goes to the transmission. I'm not sure how we hook that up on a Turbo 350, but we'll figure it out when we get there. It's like everything else. Trying to find a hole big enough to stick this pedal sensor through. If not, you got to take all the wires out of the connector, stick the wires through, and then re-pin the connector, or you drill a bigger hole. I think this will go through. Might not. It's kind of looking like it's not. Stick it that way. I'm going to cut the wires. So probably have to unpin that. Probably have to unpin the data link connector. So what we'll do, since the connector is too fat to go through any of the holes in the firewall that are pre-existing, I really don't want to open up any new holes. We've got a few that we're going to have to figure out some grommet situations on to cap off from the original stuff. So what we'll do is I'll unpin this connector. So you take this gray lock off the back, take this purple tab out of the front, and then you gotta take a pick or a wiring, like a wiring pick, and you undo the lock for each wire and pull each wire out individually out of the connector. Of course, you want to take a picture of this beforehand so you know exactly where the wires go. You stuff the wiring harness through the firewall, and you start putting the connector back together. It's not that big of a deal. Most of the time, the connectors come apart pretty easily on this GM stuff. Unfortunately, that's probably what we're going to have to do on that, and probably on the data link connector as well. I might be able to get that through, fishing it through sideways, but I don't really want to nick any of the wires. The firewall is kind of sharp with those holes, so We want to make sure that doesn't, we don't create any problems. And we still have, maybe we'll be able to tuck some of this down in between this bracket and the injector. But I'm not real worried about that right now. I want to get everything in its location first. We have some grounds to hook up. There's a couple brackets that you can screw to the firewall to hold the harness. For now, we'll put it up in the air and go ahead and try to get our crank sensor and our knock sensors in place and see how long those oxygen sensor wires are. Okay, so here's our knock sensor, and that's our knock sensor connector. And we've got to get some harness. We've got to get that harness pushed down. I think those brackets may go to the top of the transmission for that, maybe. And let's see. Knock sensor even. That one fits, or it reaches, I should say. Sorry about the lighting, I know it sucks. All right, so this is our oxygen sensor. On this side, we do have plenty of room to run it back and put a bung in the pipe instead of in the header, so that will work on that side for that. Vehicle speed sensor will come back here somewhere. Maybe there's an adapter for the speedometer to hook up to that. I don't know yet. This is the first one I've done. We've got to figure out something on that, getting it down. And we've got, I don't know where our oxygen sensor wire went for this bung here, but it's probably dangling up there somewhere. To get the harness tucked in underneath the injectors along through here, it looks a lot better than lay it up on top. We got the fat main part of the harness down on the bottom side of the back of the intake here, so that'll give us the reach we need down there on that knock sensor. And you can see the difference between with it tucked in or way that it lays up on top like that. So I'll tuck this side in as well and show you what it looks like. It'll look all nice and clean like this side. Sensor obviously has the wrong connector on it, and it doesn't reach very well either. So they already knew that. I've dug around in the box of parts, and it comes with a jumper wire or jumper map sensor, excuse me, for the LS3. So they already knew that, and they've corrected it, and I just didn't look at all the parts that I had. So good, because I didn't want to change that connector. All right, so wires are all tucked in on top of the manifold. Looking pretty good. Got the jumper wire hooked up on the map. No problem. Broke out the computer. I'm just kind of playing around with where we need to put this thing. I'm kind of liking it over here out of the way, and ran this one. Of course, it'll get secured down along the frame rail for the fuse block, and I stuck it right there for now. Nothing's mounted. It's all mock-up. So I think that'd be a pretty good spot for that. Easily accessible fuses. We'll see. I'm gonna play around with it a little bit more. So we got fuel pump wire goes there, so we could run it right down that crevice there. Coolant fairing wire comes here, and I'm not sure. I don't guess we use this. It's got a cap over it. It just says bulkhead. Not sure what that goes to or what that's for. This is our old fan wiring with relays and stuff on it, which I don't think we need now because I believe it would all be inside, but I'm not positive. I gotta look, make sure there's a relay for the coolant fan in there. It's gonna come on and off by the coolant temp sensor. Of course, we still have the wires that we need to stuff through the firewall for our data link and our throttle pedal and ignition hot. Got to figure out what went to the starter. I believe it's one of these wires, I believe, but I may be wrong. We gotta hook these grounds up. We gotta secure a few more things there, and we've got to have something to ignite the starter, or the engine will never turn over. So we're getting closer. At least it looks halfway decent. Of course, we've got to run heater hoses and air conditioning lines. So 2 of these lines go to the AC compressor, and then the other 2, I believe, will just go to the back side of the thermostat housing there, or side of the water pump, whatever you want to call it. I believe that's how we'll route that for the heater. So that ought to be pretty clean. Just got to figure out how to mount that box and that computer. But we're getting somewhere. All right, one step closer. I got to play with this header. I'm looking forward to that. So, Robert's gonna come by tomorrow. Robert's the owner of this car. Some people think this is my car. It's not. It's been here for like a year and a half. So people are like, "Oh, your Trans Am." It's not my Trans Am. It's Robert's. We call him Bud. It's Bud's Trans Am. He's coming by tomorrow. I'm gonna show him a few things, get his opinion, because I want his opinion on where the computer is going to land, where that fuse box is going to land, and just kind of show him what I'm dealing with on that header and whatnot. So I'm going to wrap this video up at this point. Thanks for watching. Do all the YouTube things for me, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. There's a thanks tab if you want to give me a little bit of dinero. That's well appreciated, but you don't have to. It's just it's there. If you want to contribute to the channel, it's there for you. Appreciate it. Of course, YouTube gets their cut, We're going to try to head back to Paradise on Saturday for some streetcar racing action. We're going to try to get there a little earlier this weekend so we can get some more footage than we did last weekend. They had a very light turnout last Saturday. It was the day before Mother's Day and the weather wasn't that great, and I think a lot of people were thinking it was going to rain, but it didn't. Anyway, we're going to do that, catch some drag racing, try to figure out what we're going to do with this header. Almost tempted to call them and say, hey, passenger side header does not fit. Is this normal? I don't think it's normal, but I just hate to have to wait. Like, what am I going to wait, another 6 months for another header to show up or something? I don't know if they keep them in stock. If it's something we can just swap out. I want to at least talk to them tomorrow about those things and make sure it's not just a defective one. If they're like, oh yeah, they all kind of land in that spot up on the floorboard, and the bolts don't want to go in the front and back bolt hole in the head. I mean, that's kind of strange. So anyway, man, if that passenger side would have just lined up like the driver's side, would have been golden. I wouldn't be fighting this thing nearly as much, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching. Come back, check me out in the next one. Peace.